Hi, and welcome to the game of Warring Brothers. Today you're going to be seeing Ethan on your left and Cooper on your right, setting up and playing a game of Warring Brothers here. So the first thing that they did is they set up their boards. They chose two boards and they put their screens in front of it. And now what they're doing is they're choosing their dice and where they're going to put them and what pip they're going to have faced up. This is important because during the game, they're going to be moving one pip type at a time. So they could have a few dice with the same pip, and all those dice would be moving at the same time. Their objective here today is to either take a enemy base, which is represented by the red and blue squares, or it is to take out their enemy's officers, which are the two larger dice. The dice that are not the larger ones we call during the game the army dice. So now that they have their dice all in order, they removed the screens and they're choosing 2 to 3 cards to put down. So the 2 cards that are required to put down are a pip card, which is the army card. It shows a picture of the dice face that they're going to be moving, and a tactic card. So there's a couple different types of tactic cards. What they just played is a movement tactic card, and they come in 2 different colors. The movement cards are on the side of the board there, and it tells them where they can move, and when they play one of the movement cards, it lets them know which space they're going to move into, because each movement card has 2 spaces that you can move to on it. Once they've played a army card, that card gets discarded into a discard pile until they have exhausted all of their army cards, in which case they pick up their entire pile again and put it back into their hands. This is important because during the game, you are going to be going from having lots of choices to very few as you're exhausting your army cards. If, for whatever reason, you lose dice of a certain pip and you don't have any more with that number on it on the board, you can always remove one of those cards from the game. There is also a regrouping tactic card, and what that allows you to do is take any of the dice with the pip count of the army card that you played with it and change those dice to any other number that you would like, and if you desire, remove the card from the game. Why it's important to remove army cards from the game is you're going to be able to move through your hand much quicker and get all your cards back and all your options back quicker than your opponent. You can also move more dice in that way, but the idea is that you'd have less control with less army cards too, so there's a balance. So these guys right now, Cooper just played a movement card of a 3, and he's moved all his 3s. There is another card that you might see come up, and it's the Learn card, and it's a person with a book. If that's played, and again, you must play one of the army cards with it, if that's played, instead of doing the action that turn, the movement, you skip the turn. Your opponent takes their action, and then you keep the movement card and it goes directly into your hand. So where this is important is now you have taken that movement away from the other player for the rest of the game, and you yourself are able to play that movement. Once you've played that movement card would go into your discard pile, and you would only be able to play it again when you've exhausted all the army cards in your hand and you picked up your discard pile again. Oh, it looks like they're moving on to the next movement card here, and it looks like they're doing pretty well. So Cooper has lost one of his blue dice, and the reason why he lost that is any die that leaves the board is considered to have deserted. And it is very possible that if you didn't calculate right, you could lose one of your dice. Oh, Cooper just played a learn card, and Ethan played a learn card. When that happens, the movement card goes to nobody, and the movement card is removed from the board. When taking dice, the way how this works is because you're playing your hand simultaneous with the other player, so essentially you're putting down your 2 to 3 cards, the third card being the movement card if you've taken one. When you've played your hand and you flip them over, you're going to be moving your pieces at the same time. If you move your dice on top of a opponent's die that they didn't move that turn, you take that dice and they are now captured. If you both move to the same spot on the exact same time, both army dice are removed from the game. If if your die ends up going to a spot where their army die is, but they moved it off that spot that turn, that's okay. You're just essentially swapping positions, and no one's dice are taken. So on the left there, you can see Ethan's discard pile is growing, and he's actually tried to remove cards as the game progresses here. So he does that with a regrouping card or just by losing dice. So it looks like Cooper has just played a learn card and Ethan played a movement card, and notice how Cooper was able to grab that movement card and stick it right into his hand. Again, Cooper's the one playing blue and Ethan's the one playing red. So this is going to continue until, again, one player has taken both enemy bases or has lost both their officer dice. It's important to note that even if one of your dice is on the objective space, that die can still be taken because you need both, at least a die on each objective space to win the game. So it's not safe once it gets to the objective space. Now, another note to notice is that Cooper has some dice on top of other dice. That's because you can have up to 2 dice in the same spot of the same color during the game. If a third die ends up going into the same spot, that die is removed from the game. So sometimes in these games you can end up with ties, and this is how the ties go, okay? The person who gets to the objective spot will win over the person who takes 2 of the opponent's officer die. Also, the person who took both of the opponent's officer dies is going to win over someone who has stopped the other person from making any future movements. And this makes sense because winning your objective is going to be more important than keeping your command to your army there, because you are able to win the day and do what your army came to do. So it looks like we're about halfway through the game here. Notice how many of the pieces are moving forward. The only reason why Ethan's been able to keep his fives back there is he's been able to play learn cards every time his fives have come up. It is possible to keep pieces back by using those extra tactic cards. However, mostly during the game, all your pieces are going to be kind of progressing forward like this. Typically in these games, I've noticed that you're starting out very similar to your opponent, but as you remove your army cards and you gain new tactic cards, the game starts progressing. It starts out slow and then it moves a lot quicker as it goes on. So Cooper is shuffling up the movement cards. When you get through the deck of movement cards, you are to shuffle them up and remove the top one from the deck and play that one in this hand. The movement cards, there's exactly 12 of them, and they're representing all the spaces shown on the movement card. There's two options for movement on the card, and they're exactly opposite of each other, allowing both opponents to have equal opportunity with the same card. There's really a lot of thought that ends up going into deciding which movements you're going to make, especially as the game progresses. At the beginning of the game, it might seem a little random when you're learning it. Now, Cooper's just played one of his own movement cards that he's been able to acquire, as opposed to playing the one that was out on the table. Each player is also given a dummy movement card at the beginning of the game, and this is to trick the opponent into thinking they're going to play one of their movement cards, when really they're just going to use the one that's the mutual one that's on the table. Oh good, Ethan's moving over his stuff a little bit more into view. You can see that he's lost one of his officer die. Ethan's the one in red. One of his officer dies. If he loses one more officer die, he's going to be out of the game here. So he's down 3 dice and Cooper is down 1 die. And it looks like Ethan has gotten rid of 2 of his army cards so far, and Cooper has not gotten rid of any of his army cards yet, so that means Ethan's going to be able to get through his deck a lot quicker. Oh, and Cooper just lost one of his die there. It also looks like Ethan's played one of his tactic cards, and that's waiting for him, and his learn card, and that's waiting for him for when he exhausts all the cards in his hand, and because he has fewer cards in his hand, he does that quicker than Cooper, and he just got all his cards back. So now Ethan has the ability to play everything that he has, where Cooper can just play the things that are not exhausted yet, which is less. Some great tactics to do with this is someone might move forward, and that card has been played, and now they have to go through their whole hand before they can play that again, so you can kind of pick on that die that you know can't move that turn. Very often a movement card will come up where you wish you could have been able to move that die that turn, and you've already played it, so you got to be really careful with what you play when. Again, I'm going to note again, you'll see that Cooper has a die on top of his officer die there. That's okay because you can have up to 2 dice in the same spot. And you can tell the game's kind of starting to pick up a little bit more, and they're taking a little longer going through their cards. If someone gets analysis paralysis in the game, that's where this can go on for 45 minutes. And it's suggested you could pick up a sand timer and motivate your opponent to make decisions a little quicker. But both players are always engaged through the whole game because you're going to be making decisions at the exact same time. So Cooper's just taken another one of Ethan's die. See, they're having a pretty good time here. Let's see what they're going to do now. We're kind of getting into the closing parts of the game. You can see that Cooper's dice are getting very, very close to his objective spot, but I don't know if you've noticed, but they were able to knock out, because they both tried to play tactic cards at the same time, and knocked out both of the straightforward and back cards from the game. So Cooper's going to have to do some finagling to get in there. Cooper just played a learn card, and Ethan tried to come in and take one of his dice away to try to even the playing field a little bit here. But Cooper still has both of his army dice. And it looks like Ethan's pretty close as well. He has 2 red army dice right vertical of his objective spaces. So this is a pretty close game here. So he just regrouped his die. Ethan just regrouped his dice. He took all the dice with 5 on it, and he changed them to different faces. And he decided to hold on to, it looks like, his 5 die. We'll see if he decides to keep that. They went through the movement cards again, so Cooper's just reshuffling the movement cards and putting them out. This is getting close. I think we might see a winner pretty soon here. Let's see, I'm kind of intense in seeing what's coming up here. You can tell Ethan's getting a little stressed. Oh, Cooper just took his last officer dice. Did he win? It looks like he might have won. Oh, wait. No, Ethan has gotten the objective area, so it comes down to tiebreaker, and Ethan wins because he took the objective area, and that wins over taking the 2 officer dice. So there we go. Victory for Ethan. I hope you enjoyed this game of Warring Brothers. Let us know, and thank you for watching.